Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. He's one of the funniest men in TV and film with roles in Veep, A Futile and Stupid Gesture, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and now the new Melissa McCarthy comedy, Life of the Party. It's Matt Walsh, and he's really just one of the best. Let's take a look at Life of the Party.
I don't regret staying at home and being your mom, but I regret not getting my degree.
That's why somebody's mom just enrolled in college. I'm referring to myself. I'll see you around the quad.
Nobody says that, Mom.
Well, bring it back.
Get ready for the wildlife.
I think those dads just checked you out.
Like just looking at my smock, it tends to catch the light.
Mom, you're a college girl now, and we gotta make some changes.
No, we don't know where that's been. Oh, God, it's full of hair.
Come on, let me at it.
No! Oh, God, no!
What are you, 20?
Okay, I wouldn't
I'm
go that
21.
far. Okay.
The flashing lights gonna lose
I love your mom.
I already lost my
You had sex in a library? Frank!
No, don't tell Frank.
Deanna just had sex in a public place.
Where?
In the stacks.
In her slacks?
No, shut up, Frank.
Get ready for the wildlife.
I'm older, I'm wiser. This, essentially a Google. Ask me anything.
Turn off your Google. You're scaring me.
I think my Google scared Jack last night,
Oh my God.
but in a good way. Like when you intentionally go through a haunted house.
Ew.
Get ready for the wildlife.
Everybody, Matt Walsh.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Matt, thanks for being here. How are you?
I love coming to see you. Good.
Oh, that's so nice.
Everything's
Nice
good.
to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Congrats on the movie. I was telling you backstage, you have a line in the movie that really made me laugh harder than everything else in the film, and I'm not sure if it was even supposed to. It was just so dark and harsh and out of nowhere.
Yeah, when he asked for the divorce in the driveway after they dropped the daughter off at the college. Yeah, he's
Very
a
cold-
jerk.
Very cold about
Very
it.
cold about it. He's in a hurry to get out of that marriage in that moment. Yeah.
When you play a jerk like that, do you try to find any sort of redeeming quality to him, or are you just like, no, this guy is a jerk?
I do. No, I definitely have sympathy for him. I would not like portray. You can't really portray someone that you despise, because then you're sort of detached from. I think so. You just commit to being that person. So in the little acting work I did for this character, because it is a comedy, you're just trying to get laughs mostly, is to look around me and see the guys I known who had sort of gotten out of their marriages or had these weird midlife crises where they started becoming consumers of like cars or like stereo equipment. And so I started with that. Like sometimes people look for things outside of themselves to get happiness, and that's understandable. Like we live in a consumery kind of world too. But so ditching the wife, I've seen some of my friends who've done that, and it's bizarre, but I think it comes from a place of, oh, that'll fix me. If I get out of this and I go with her, I will be fixed. You know what I mean? It's that fallacy.
When they tell you, hey, me and my wife, we're splitting up, I got to move on, do you immediately picture the conversation in 3 months? We're like, I don't know, what did I do? What did I do?
Well, I had one friend, I had one friend that nobody saw it coming, but he literally had his oldest daughter get into college, and then he told us that he was going to get a divorce. And nobody, because you would hang out with them as a couple, and they were super fun. So even his friends, as well as his wife, were blindsided by it. So it's weird.
Harboring a lot of shit for nobody to be able to sense
To read
at
it.
all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's like...
What's the closest thing you've ever had to a midlife crisis that you can talk about?
Yeah.
You don't have to fully embarrass yourself.
The cocaine October I went through... No, that's not true.
Got lost in Mexico for about 2 months, just a crazy
That's
bender.
a great, like, midlife crisis. I think there was a time when I tried to, like, learn drums in my garage when I was, like, 40 or 42, and I'm not a good musician. That's an example. That's not a midlife crisis. That was trying a different skill, which isn't bad.
That's about right. That's like kind of,
It's
that's
a
like a
thing.
healthy one.
It's a thing that, is
Did
there
they
a judo
warn you that
club
there's a
upstairs?
gym upstairs? Yeah.
Oh, there is a gym.
There
sorry.
is a gym upstairs.
Okay. It's under the mats.
They like to alert you that they're there every now and then.
It's funny. In LA, that would be an earthquake. That thing would be an earthquake.
Close here. Oh, that was a bit
Maybe
of
it
an
is an
aftershock. That was
earthquake.
an aftershock to the earthquake.
The trampoline gym. I can't think of a great example of me having a midlife crisis, though. I'll think of something as we talk. Have you?
The closest thing that I have ever had was like a birthday that I had initially said, I don't want to do anything. I just want to have dinner with you and we'll be fine. And then at 11 o'clock, I was like texting friends and was like, I got to get drunk. I got to get out there. I got to have a big birthday party with all my friends. And my partner was like, what are you doing? I took you to a nice restaurant. This is what you told me. Why are you hurting me right now?
You panicked.
Yeah, I had a panic at
that's
like
good.
11:30.
That's good. That's it.
You know, the next morning, like, sorry.
That's funny. No, I don't think I've had a good one like that.
Had you worked with Melissa McCarthy and this crew before, her and Ben? And
Yeah, I ran into Melissa on Ghostbusters, and she
Right.
was super funny and nice. And then she literally called me and left a voice message, which was basically, "Hi, Matt Walsh. Would you like to play my jerk husband in a movie? Call me." Like, it was great. It was an amazing call.
And when you get on a set like this, it's mostly, I mean, it's all comedy people. It's all
It
people that
is.
have worked in comedy. So I imagine you're all kind of doing the script, but also
Playing
bringing
with it.
what
Yeah.
you can. Yeah.
Melissa and Ben, her husband directed it, and they have a background in like sketch and improv, so they're very loose. Because they're the writers, they were on set and they would tell us what they were thinking with these lines or this scene. But always there were additional lines you were trying, or you had permission to like play with it. And Maya Rudolph, I hadn't really worked with her. She's super funny. She's a really strong improviser as well as a great actor. And Julie Bowen, I known, oddly enough, our kids and her kids have known each other forever. We went to the same like preschool and stuff in California. So it was very familiar and very loose in a good way, which I think generally bodes well for comedy if there's a little looseness and people aren't too uptight.
Well, people are, I mean, especially something like this. This isn't the sort of, I'm not, in no way am I trying to put this down. It's not like a tight story.
It's not
that
a
has
Wes
to be
Anderson
hit.
comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Like, if you don't hit the beat, we're going to screw everything up.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's a little loose so everybody can have a good time and come up with the best jokes
Yes.
possible in the moment.
Yes, that process reigned supreme down in Atlanta when we shot. Yeah. It was fun. It was a fun movie to make.
Whereas Veep isn't really like that at all, right? Veep is kind of very
Veep
punchy
is
and
loose, but
specific.
it's super scripted and it's tighter than like you would imagine. It's basically fully scripted, and then when we read the scripts, we'll do some improv at the table reads, and then on the day of filming, there's always new pages coming in. You don't over memorize because you know on the morning going into that scene that they're going to hand you new pages. So you do a disservice to yourself by like memorizing what you had last night. You just kind of, okay, I got it, and then inevitably new pages show up in your hand on the morning. And then when you do it for rehearsal, we often change things or try things, but it's super scripted.
Why are they changing things so much the day of? I mean, I'd imagine the scripts that they gave you the night before are pretty good as well.
I think it's like ambition and hunger to make the best show or the best joke. Like, I think you have like really high-level writers and high-level performers like Julia who want to make like the best comedy they could possibly make. So they're constantly like breaking it down and not coasting in a simple way.
Is it, do the scripts come across the night before, like, sort of here are the beats of the scene, or this is the information that we're trying to get across, and then the next morning they come out, there are more jokes in them?
No, inevitably the table reads happen months before you would film. So we'll do a table read of episode 701. We're going into our 7th season. And then
And the last, too.
in the final season,
Yeah.
it is, yeah. They're stepping away. So
Real bummer, I have to tell you.
it'll be bittersweet, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 7 seems like a good place to end, but Veep is a kind of go-to cathartic show for me.
It's the classy move, but I agree. I would do the show forever. And I also think it's increasingly difficult to do great political comedy in this insane, terrible executive shit show that Trump is.
Nothing makes sense anymore.
Exactly. It's a nightmare, and it's unfortunate that obviously the country is suffering worse than comedians, but people in the political comedy game are also like, what the hell do we do? It's very challenging.
I mean, I imagine Veep, last season they couldn't really address Trump. And
No, because
and
that season was written. We were
During.
filming the night that Hillary lost, and that season was already in the books, and she was off chasing her vagibrary, and I was writing the book, and there was all this other stuff going to Tony's family's house. So that was already in the books, and she was outside the White House. This year, she's going to run for president again, as she said at the end of last season. And my guy, Leon West, took my job, so I'm no longer the press secretary. So we'll see where Mike McClintock ends up this season.
But I would love to see David Mandel, right?
Yep.
I would love to see David Mandel and his crew handle not necessarily a Trump-like satire, but just a group of corrupt goons.
Well, I think the good news is it's starting, like when we read a bunch of scripts in October, I don't know, 3 maybe, and you could start to see jokes or things in there that were addressing the Trump craziness in a good way that were really funny. It's like, oh, this is exciting, you know?
I just can't imagine being a regular Washington bureaucrat, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way. Someone who's lived and worked in D.C. for a long time, for instance, in the State Department, and having to deal with like Rex Tillerson or Mike Pompeo and their opinions and the way that they approach everything. It must be just mind-boggling.
Yeah, I liken the current administration to like a smash and grab at a jewelry store.
Yeah.
They're just punching through the glass and taking stuff.
It seems like great ground for...
And then, like, I didn't do it, or whatever the words are. Like, and the other strangeness is that so many people are sort of, like, turning the news off. Like, we've gotten to that point, too, where we're just like, I got to get a break. I can't... Like, smart people who are crazy, rabid fans of the news, it's just like everybody for their own health is like, I can't even watch right now. It's so bad, or it's so weird. And so in the middle of all that, I think the writers were thinking like, yeah, let's try to do one more season, but it's getting like challenging to make this show super funny, and it's a different world. And
I imagine Julia Louis-Dreyfus and her team, the characters, kind of consistently looking at Trump's people and going, "Can you do that? Can he do that? I didn't know we could do that."
It is
to be the case right now with the administration.
In the world of Veep, inevitably there are things that get pitched in the writers' room that years ago we would say that's insane, that's not real, because we fight for a realistic tone and believability.
Like Marco Rubio and the fucking the setting the time, right?
Yes, yeah, daylight savings.
He tried to do a daylight savings thing, which is what
Jonah
Jonah
Ryan
Ryan did.
And then there was an Australian prime minister or governor who stole one of Selena's terrible campaign slogans accidentally. Like the writers spent a lot of time. What's the worst slogan for a politician? And they wrote it and they put it on
together.
a bus.
No, not that. Sorry.
No, I don't know what it was, but it was like New Beginnings or something. I forget. Anyways, he ended up using it accidentally, and people made fun of him because like that was intentionally bad, and you're thinking it's good. So it happens.
I have. Did the Del Close Marathon happen already, or is it?
No, it's happening
up, right?
June 29th. It starts, and we're going to be at Carnegie Hall June 28th. Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
What are you guys doing there?
We will be doing our long-running show, Ass Cat, which is improvised scenes off of a monologist, and it'll be the UCB4. And
wait, so Del Close Marathon is 24 hours of improv
programming,
shows.
Yep.
Programming, right? And are they all going to be
72 roughly? Actually, it starts like Friday at 4 in the afternoon, and it goes till like Monday a.m. or whatever.
They're not all going to be at Carnegie Hall, right?
No,
it's like one. Okay.
The Thursday show is the first event of the festival. Then the actual festival starts Friday at 4, and then the 24/7 of it begins.
And how much are you going to be taking part in?
I come out every year, and I'd say I usually do like 8 to 12 shows over the weekend. It's like a marathon. Everybody who comes out from LA or kids come from Japan or Finland, there's a lot of improv all over the world. It's amazing. And they'll be up all night, and everybody's doing as many shows as they can. It's a very fun, almost athletic / party.
Is that the sort of most improv that you do in a year, or are you still out in the theater a lot in LA?
It's the most intense improv streak I have on my calendar. But I live in LA, and I probably do once a month right now. That's it. I don't really improvise much anymore. I have 3 kids, and it's hard to get off the couch on a Sunday night to go down to do a comedy show. Yeah,
I have friends in groups, and they're like, "Come out! It's 12:30. It's at 12:30 on Saturday night," and I'm like, "Sorry."
I'm old.
I really want to see your show.
Old. Yeah.
But like, I also really want to hang out and.
Could you guys do one for me in my pajamas?
Get the team.
Bring them over. I'll put some egg rolls in the oven.
I'll give you a little monologue for you guys to go off of.
I'll talk about my day, and then you guys entertain me.
Oh, I wish I would go every time.
I know.
I think eventually I would ask them to leave though and stop doing it. Unfortunately, that would be the thing if they actually agreed to it. After a few weeks, it would be like, "Thank you, I'm done. I'm good."
Yeah. I just want to sleep. I want to watch my shows now. You're standing in front of the television.
Enough with the improv. Westworld is on, guys.
Yes.
Have you stopped looking at the news?
No, but I have.
Are you still an addict?
I'm not. I've never been like a complete news political junkie. No, I'm an average news consumer, and no, I haven't totally shut it off. But I think I do take breaks from it more than I used to, especially like on Twitter stuff. I've been off of the Twitter a lot.
Twitter's hard. I mean, it's one thing to like, you could pick up a newspaper and you'd feel that things were bad, but at least you're providing yourself with a lot of context. You're reading full articles or something. When you get to Twitter, it just looks like a stream that's just going to near the end of the world. By the time you finish scrolling down, everything's going to be gone. You have to be like, okay, I got to get out of this.
And it's like pinging your fight or flight brain center or something. It's really getting you going in a different way. I totally agree. Like a New York Times article is sort of like you're saying, there's context and there's other things in the world. Whereas when you're on the Twitter K-hole, it's like this is all happening and it's getting worse and you can't get out of it.
I'm mad too.
Yeah.
I'm mad too. Yeah. A newspaper, like, it's actually kind of relaxing, even if it's really bad.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. This is what old people talk about, you guys. How we love newspapers.
VCRs are great as well, guys.
Don't quit on the cassette tape either.
Do not quit the cassette tape.
There's a lot of great stuff on cassette still out
Remember
there.
the mixtape, man?
Yeah, the
Recording
song
the
from
radio.
Avenue Q.
When you're working with Julie Bowen in this and Ben, do they have other writers on set as well? Is it one of the kind of comedy movie where there's several other writers?
Melissa and
throwing
Ben had a
jokes out?
friend, Steve, who's very funny, who was always on set, and a guy, Chris Henchy, who was a producer. They would chip in lines or give you ideas for lines, and then you had I was completely entitled to pitch jokes and try things. And there was a lot of like, and also in some of the scenes where they're, like the arbitration scene where they're trying to figure out how much he gets and she gets, there was camera set up so we could try a bunch on their side and then reverse it and try a bunch on our side. So they gave a lot of extra time to those scenes for alt lines. So it was built into the production to have like, okay, set it up like this so we can try all these new lines from the writers.
Is that always the case when you do movies? Have you been cast in anything where it's kind of like pretty straight by the book?
No, I think more and more comedies tend to try alts and they try to give you permission to bring something to the character. I think especially in comedy, they hire you for your skill set, like in acting too, but for some reason I think they want like, oh, you're the guy, you're funny. It'd be silly if you hired Will Ferrell to play an admiral of a submarine and just keep him on the script. It'd be silly. You know what I mean? Like you're not using your greatest talent. So we're all downstream from that idea. It's like if you have really funny people who can write funny things in their head, then let them contribute.
But that also seems like a really great joke to cast Will Ferrell as the admiral of a ship and not give him any jokes to do and just keep it really dry.
Keep it really dry?
And just confuse an audience.
But then you would still allow him to improvise dryly.
Yes.
Because he would know that character and he would know the sweet spot. Or I'll play that character. Give me that character. I'll do that character.
Have you had the chance to do any drama at all? Do you want to?
I did.
Will you?
I don't enjoy drama as much. I did a drama with Viola Davis this past summer, just a couple scenes, and that was a true thrill because she's an amazing actor. Mm-hmm. And then I did like a romantic comedy in France last summer that's going to come out, I don't know, August or February, but that was fun because that has a lot of serious moments as well as comedy. So that was a nice deep dive. But true drama, I enjoy comedy most.
Was the Viola Davis movie, has that come out yet?
No, it has not, and I think it was called Widows, but I don't know what it's called now. It might have a new name.
Oh, was it the Steve McQueen?
Yes, Steve
movie?
McQueen.
That's crazy. I didn't know that you were in that. That's amazing.
I have a couple scenes, yeah.
What was it like working with Steve McQueen?
Amazing. Yeah. And I don't play a great guy either. I'm not going to ruin anything, but I don't play a great guy in that. There's a theme going on.
Yeah, are people catching on to something?
Wait a minute. I got to stop playing jerks. Well, the jerk in this movie is nothing compared to the guy I play in the Steve McQueen
Are
movie.
you the type of comedian who probably doesn't watch that many comedy movies in your personal life and watches more dramas?
Correct.
Like it sounds like you were really excited to work with Steve McQueen.
I was. I like dramas, and I like my viewing consumption is like a lot of documentaries. Yeah. Also a lot of cartoons with the kids. Like we have 3 kids. A lot of Bob's Burgers. Been very well versed on that. That's a really funny show. But generally, I don't seek out comedies. Even in the theater, I don't tend to see a lot.
Yeah.
But I saw Game Night. That was one of the last comedies I saw in a movie theater. That was
Seen
funny.
that. I've heard it's great.
It was funny. Yeah.
But Steve McQueen, go back to that.
So
you
Steve
get cast in
McQueen-
this movie, and what was that like?
It was great. He's a British director who's really talented and
For
very.
those that don't know, he did
12
Years a Slave and Hunger and Shame. Yeah.
Yes, and I think he might have came out of the music video world. Is that possible?
Performance art world.
Performance art world. So he's a very unique, smart, and also playful, but in the dramatic world of it. He didn't constrain you. He would say, that was lovely, perfect, try it this way. Great, try that. Great. He was just lovely and couldn't have been nicer. And I don't know. It was an honor, a thrill. It was great.
I love that. I love when really brilliant dramatic directors are like actually very jovial and nice people on set.
Yeah,
working
it
together.
could be. Like, I was only there for a couple days, so I didn't have a lot to do. But you're right, it could be. That is the problem with dramas is like, if you're with people who are in this character who's tortured and they say cut, there's still actors hang on to that. And so they're like after cut and before cut, they're still in this like terrible mood. And that's just like not a fun set. But it's necessary for their process. But like comedy's much lighter. You say cut, and everybody's like, "Where are we going to eat tonight? Let's go get a drink tonight."
Are you
much lighter?
When you had to do a drama, were you kind of did you hang on to it, or were you still in comedy mode? Everybody's hanging on to something, and you're like, well, "You guys want to go get food?"
In truth, I had a slight crisis of faith when I was doing a drama, and I thought, all these guys are so intense, and they're going so deep, and they have like biographies that they've written about their character. Do you know what I mean? Like really deep. And then at the end of the day, I came out of it and I said, that's not my process. That's not what I do. And I was solid in the movie. I watched the movie and I was as good as anyone, you know? So it's just you have to, but when you're in that milieu and everyone's like doing intense acting stuff off to the side or staying in it and getting there, it can challenge your process. And it makes you rethink a little bit. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I came through it and I'm like, no, I did my homework. I understand this character. And ultimately, it comes down to when the camera's going, you just want to be alive and respond as if this is really happening. And if you can really be there for that, whatever gets you to that moment doesn't matter. Because once it's going, all that stuff doesn't matter. It's like, how are you in this moment that's living? You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what the improv for me is like my strength. But I do think that is like what acting is. It's like listening, hearing it, and imagining it as if the stakes are real and everything. All the wonderful art direction and wardrobe takes you to that place and helps you commit to it. And if you commit 100% to that, that's great acting, I think.
Yeah, and if there's intention to the scene and you know who your character is, you can know who a character is just simply based off of the words and what he wants out of a scene. You may not need to do that backstory or all of these other things to get you there.
Yeah, but then there's also like actors who've done plays and theater and Shakespeare, and they're very comfortable with like, they're going to run those lines 100,000 times before they get on set, and that's their process, and that's really valuable for them. And that's real too. That's, you know, there's different ways. You don't have to everybody doesn't have to go at it the same way.
Yeah. Let's get some questions from our audience. Who has a question? Right? Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. What was
Were we boring, by the way? Was that interesting?
No, I love
It was boring? Okay, good.
You can tell the truth. Go
Yeah.
ahead. I feel like you have something to say about it. Like, no, sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, it seems like you'd much rather be on your couch a lot of the time, based on what you're saying.
I have zero ambition.
So we are coming across as boring. We come across as couch potatoes.
Couch potato. No, what was the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome on set, and how did you handle it?
Like on a job, like biggest obstacle. The thing that I can remember is I had to play in Chicago. There was a musical called Co-ed Prison Sluts, and I understudied a guy who left town for a month, and it was like a really campy, filthy musical. And then I had to play a guy who was secretly a cross-dresser. Like when he was alone, he would put lipstick on and pretend he was a woman and put on dresses. And so he was almost like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde in this very campy musical. Long story short, I was thrown into what is the most difficult role in the musical. This guy, Dr. Bellows, I believe he was called, played by Tom Booker originally. I was understudying Tom, and I did it like the first night, and I just knew, like, I'm never going to get this. And I have to do it for 2 weeks. And I tried my ass off, and I did a pretty good job, but I knew after like 2 performances maybe, I'm not going to be great at this. And it really, but you struggle through it. Like I did it as well as I could, and then after like 3 weeks, he came back or somebody else took it over and it was a reprieve and I was happy to be out of it. So that was the biggest challenge. And my takeaway was there may be things that, for whatever reason, at that point in time in your life, you can't pull off. And that's a nightmare to be inside that role. Like now, if I came back, I bet I could do that role a lot better. Yeah. But I was young and I was just starting. And it's like in math when you're trying to do and it just doesn't come. And you're so angry and your anger in no way helps you solve the problem. That's what it was like. And I think what I learned is you just do your best and you make it a little better.
Yeah, that's a really good lesson to learn.
Yeah. It's like, because there are jobs like, oh my God, I'm terrible at that. Yeah. It's like when a stand-up walks on stage and says one line and no one laughs and they know, like, whatever I do, they're going to hate me. And you just have to muscle through that. Like, there's something to be learned in that. But there are moments where you're like, oh God, this is going to go poorly.
Yeah. Next question.
Hi.
Hi.
I like your sweater, by the way.
Thank you.
There are multiple horses.
Thank you. This is this is a family heirloom. It was a gift from the 90s from my aunt, and my brother gave me his. So this is the last one left in the family.
Oh, that's so nice.
Thank you.
I was just curious, were there any jokes or improv that were able to be in the movie that you wish that there were?
I think there were that ended up in the movie.
That didn't end up in the movie.
That didn't end up in the movie. There was so much extra stuff. I do know in the scene where they're arbitrating in the boardroom, we had a lot of stuff we were playing to the arbitrator and we couldn't look at each other. But I don't remember like, oh, I wish. So I think all the good stuff got in there. That's my short answer.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Next one.
So I was wondering, did you get to interact with or act with any of the younger audience or the younger cast
younger
members?
Actors?
Yeah, in the movie, and what was that like for you?
They were great. The one gal, Jessie Ennis, I had worked with in a David Cross film called Hits, and so she did her first movie. I was on it with her, and so she's really fun and she's really cool. So I spent a fair amount of time with her, and then the other kids. The one boy who plays Luke, he's a man, he's not a boy, but I hung out with him a little bit, but generally it was mostly Julie and I would hang out, I felt older, so I didn't really hang out with the kids. There's a theme to my talk. But they were super nice and talented.
How was David Cross as a director when you worked with him?
He was amazing. He's a very intimidating person because his wit is so sharp and he does shred people in his comedy. So you don't know if he's ever going to turn those sights on you. So it's a little uneasy at first, but he couldn't have been kinder and sweeter and more supportive and more loving and efficient and in the best way, a great director.
I was very worried when I interviewed him that like halfway through the interview, he was going to be like, really?
Disdain for this whole thing.
Yeah. He ended up being very nice and sweet.
Yeah.
During the interview. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he softened or something.
I mean, growing up with Mr. Show and like listening to his stand-up like, in the early 2000s, it was really, I was like, he's gonna tear us apart.
Super angry. Yeah.
Yes. Super angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or he can be. That's super funny.
Yeah. Matt, thanks so much for being here, man. It's a pleasure to see you. Great
Always
talking to you.
great to chat with you.
Life of the Party, May 11th.
Yeah.
Right in theaters. Is that this weekend?
Is that today?
Is it today?
Tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Oh, today's Thursday.
Today's Thursday.
I don't know. They just wake me up and put me on the stage.
Same
man.
here.
I have
What city am I in? Is this Holland? Yeah. Baltimore?
Yes, this is Dutch TV.
Oh, wow. Looks very much like New York.
Everybody, please, round of applause for Matt Walsh. Let's hear it.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out.